Before you see Blair Witch 2, find out what really happened on the Sci-Fi Special Investigation Shadow of the Blair Witch. Next on Sci-Fi. John Edward is a man with a singular gift. Tonight at 11, witness a new episode of Crossing Over with John Edward on Sci-Fi.
Say the bodies of 5 other victims may have some
yet to be
connection to those
disclosed, as
found.
authorities are still looking for the killer
Has a
or
pronounced
killers.
history of psychological
local
disturbances.
Jeff Patterson.
Supposedly abducted 4 young adults, 2 of which were found in
It is
his
unlikely
house.
at this time that the names will be released until such a time as investigators feel it is in the best interest of the
Suspicions
investigation.
have been raised that Patterson did not
Burkittsville local Jeff Patterson may have committed or participated in the multiple
abductees
killings.
assisted him in committing the violent
Information
crime.
that might lead authorities to justice, please call the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office at the number at the bottom of your screen.
It's been a week since multiple homicide victims were discovered in Seneca State Park and the Black Hills Forest. Burkittsville native Jeff Patterson has been detained by authorities who believe he is somehow connected to these crimes. Donald McFarrell, Patterson's defense attorney, believes his client is being accused on circumstantial evidence.
We're talking about someone who has been made a suspect because he looks suspicious, and this makes me very, very irate. When this is over, I will file a suit against the city of Burkittsville and Montgomery County, Maryland, because it's wrongful arrest.
I'm convinced we got the bad guy. To me, Jeff Patterson did it. He's the guy I'm after. He's the bad guy in the story.
He has a history of odd behavior.
I trust my instincts, and this boy is innocent.
In this case, they had in mind that Jeffrey Patterson is the offender.
The whole Blair Witch thing has sort of totally gotten out of hand.
We don't like to give it too much credence, you know. There may be some individuals that practice black arts.
I don't believe that Jeff could be a killer, not in this life.
Witness 18 frightening fables of horrifying havoc. The Tales from the Crypt Chain Reaction. Next Sunday, beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern and Pacific.
Hi, I'm Tony Kunze, founder of Blimpie. I'm just a simple sandwich man. Started making them over 35 years ago. Fresh baked bread, oven roasted turkey, and aged Swiss. I think a sandwich like that sells itself, but our ad agency tells me that repetition of the name Blimpie will help customers remember us. Simply Blimpie, for the finest deli cuts around.
Try the Blimpie Best. Try the Blimpie Best. You know how our ad guys feel about repetition.
In the next 30 seconds, I'm going to show you how to make a delicious, tangy chicken teriyaki marinade. For fish, meat, or chicken, pour on the original Kikkoman Teriyaki. It only tastes complicated.
We are no longer the underdog. We're not a small company or a struggling upstart. We're not Davids. They're not Goliaths. You could say we've succeeded. And in doing so, we created something bigger than a car. Bigger than a factory. Bigger than us. And best of all, we're not done creating.
Modulate my polypores through my sci-fi hues.
A house on Dyer Avenue in Cranston that awaits you. It's the all-new Haunted Labyrinth, and it's not for the faint-hearted. Begin your journey with a unique 3D experience. Then make your way through endless hallways, discover secret passages, and survive the array of ghosts and goblins that could scare you to death. Experience thrills, chills, and startles around every corner. The Haunted Labyrinth on Dyer Avenue in Cranston. Open Thursdays through Sundays, 7 to 11 p.m. in October. Thank you, Ocean State Job Lot, Copy World Color Digital Printers of Warwick, and 92 Pro FM.
Sure, a satellite TV system works okay, as long as nothing gets in the way. With Cox Digital Cable, our fiber optic-based network is connected directly to your home for a clearer, more reliable picture. Who exactly fixes a satellite TV system? Other than you, that is. With Cox Digital Cable, service and repair are free and guaranteed, should you ever have a problem.
Cinema Event Week, the biggest movies in prime time. Cinema Event Week starts tomorrow at 9 Eastern and Pacific on Sci-Fi.
I want to thank you all for coming on the inaugural tour of the Blair Witch Hunt.
Inaugural?
You mean you've never done this before?
Never.
Well, that's not what your website said. Over 10,000 satisfied customers.
No, that's my web store. Stickmen, T-shirts, official Blair Dirt, tours. We're all virgins on this bus.
Jeff, look up. Jeff, can you say the Dickens? This is Shark, Jeff, come on.
Get past other people.
Jeff, Stan Friedman, News Center 9. Jeff, tell us what you saw in the woods. Tell us where you went. Hey, Jeff, are you innocent?
I don't understand why people want the details. When we found out that they were taking this story and putting it into a sequel, I felt sick to my stomach.
There are three theories on who committed these murders. To me, Jeff Patterson is the most logical. There's another theory that this Jeff Patterson and two of his cohorts came together as some frantic mass hysteria or whatever. And then there's this third theory, which is some evil force taking over out in the woods. I don't think I've been involved in such a case that had such boogeyman in the woods type stuff.
I'm Donald McFerrell, and I'm an attorney in this area now for, about 15 years now. Having done my research on my client, there's nothing there to suggest that this boy is violent. I'm delighted that we're not going to have those cameras in the courtroom. I want the focus to be on the courtroom. I think my client is a victim of circumstances, and unless you're going to find fingerprints, unless you're going to find murder weapons, this is just hogwash here.
Criminal profiling is an investigative tool that is made available to police and other criminal justice elements to utilize in, well, either in searching for or trying potential offenders.
Vera Tinsley is very professional, and she's pretty good. She's our profiler. She's the official profiler. I'm the amateur profiler. I don't always agree with her. In fact, in this case right here, I don't think we really agree on what's going on.
Jeff Patterson is accused of multiple killings in the area of the Black Hills National Forest and Burkittsville as well.
He wanted so much to be part of this that I think when he wasn't a part of it, he made sure he was a part of it. He started his new Blair Witch, if you will. was going in the Black Hills Forest long before the movie came out and trying to backtrack whatever path those 3 individuals might have taken and then bringing people up there. And that's how he recruited his 2 recruits, as I understand.
Packs are on.
Rock.
We're ready to go.
We gotta go up to the shack, the shanty.
Yep.
Wow.
Unfortunately, the internet is a wonderful avenue for stalkers. The most dangerous stalkers tend to be stranger to stranger. And the internet gives that opportunity for a potential offender to find potential victims of like mind, like interests. One very well-known one is Marshall Applewhite from the Heaven's Gate cult. Most people are familiar with that because it was so shocking. That was the early 1990s, and what happened was that his rhetoric and his charisma came across to certain individuals that were drawn to him.
Belongs to you. You recognize that that is in your head.
And then, ultimately, they did a mass suicide where they overdosed on phenobarbital mixed into ice cream. And if you recall, they all ended up, the men, castrating themselves. And they're not the only result of cyberstalking, but they are the most famous. There's certainly others.
When we found these bodies, and I'm not going to say how many, there were certain things. The only puzzling thing to me, and I have to admit that it still is puzzling, some of the murders, it appeared, were very ritualistically done. Bodies placed in certain positions. All of them were violent, extremely violent.
With Bill, he does have a habit to want to theorize quickly because he gets very passionate about his work.
Oh, wow.
But it clouds his ability to sit back from the material and let it speak to us.
680 to 90,
What happened in Burkittsville when the movie came out was, well, we were suddenly overrun. I mean, it felt like some mass hysteria. It wasn't appreciated. The crimes that were committed last year in Burkittsville, it came as a big surprise to the whole community. There seems to be some kind of a connection to this legend, at least in people's minds. There was a seemingly sadistic element to the actual crimes. There were slashings, and all of the people who were involved actually, oddly enough, didn't share any profile at all, except that they each had access to the internet.
That's right, friends. For 2 luxurious days and nights, my friends, you will walk the same paths the witch herself once walked. Sleep on the same soil where her victim's blood was spilt. Possibly losing your own souls in the process.
It's actually a very interesting little folk tale.
I think it's all asinine myself.
Cinema Event Week starts tomorrow at 9 Eastern and Pacific with Child's Play 3 on Sci-Fi. Witness 18 frightening fables of horrifying havoc. The Tales from the Crypt Chain Reaction. Next Sunday, beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern and Pacific.
Sci-Fi. Think you know the story of Dracula?
I hereby reclaim the throne of Romania.
Rudolph Martin, Dark Prince, the true story of Dracula. Halloween at 9 on USA.
I'd say that the TiVo's been a real godsend for me. I'm in a high-stress profession. When I get home, television's my salvation. TiVo let me create my own TV network, so I can watch what I want when I want to. It's my way to forget about the day.
What do you like to watch?
Mainly cop shows.
Get a close on this guy. He's going away for a long time.
What it is. What it feels like. What it is. What it feels like. What it is. We know what social anxiety can feel like, and Paxil can help. Over 10 million people suffer from overwhelming anxiety that significantly impairs work or social life, and a chemical imbalance could be to blame. Paxil, the only medication proven effective for social anxiety disorder, works to correct this imbalance. Paxil is not for everyone. Tell your doctor what medicines you're taking. People taking MAOI should not take Paxil. Paxil side effects may include decreased appetite, dry mouth, sweating, nausea, constipation, sexual side effects in men and women, yawn, tremor, or sleepiness. With time, your doctor's help, and Paxil, life can feel like life again. Paxil, your life is waiting.
You're hot.
Excuse me?
How about a V8 Splash to cool you down?
No thanks.
I know what you're thinking. Oh, V8, it must be rich and tomatoey. But in fact, V8 Splash is refreshing and fruity.
It is fruity.
See what happens when you make judgments based on outward appearance? Now, how about your phone number?
No.
I thought we learned a lesson here.
Fruity V8 Splash, a very different V8.
Who gutted and killed the 5 guys on Coffin Rock, 1886?
Also unknown.
Robin Weaver.
The tiny little girl they went out searching for?
Hey, she was possessed by the witch like they all were. Ellie Kedward, Rustin Parr, even little Eileen Treacle, drowning herself in the Tappy Creek while possessed by the Blair Witch's influence.
Yeah, right. And Kurt Cobain committed suicide.
Didn't he?
Let's go live now to Dilba Henry at the Rockville Courthouse. That's where murder suspect Jeffrey Patterson's preliminary hearing is underway for his alleged role in a multiple homicide this past September. Dilba.
Well, it is starting to get cold out here, but we are not allowed inside the courthouse. The judge has ruled on a motion which does not allow us to go inside. But I am standing here with Kathy Sherrar Patterson, mother of Jeff Patterson. Now, Jeff, along with 2 others whose names have not yet been released, are on trial for multiple homicides. This all happened in the Black Hills area in early September of last year.
I think he wanted so much to be a part of the Blair Witch. This guy was obsessed with this thing.
The people who think that the Blair Witch might be responsible for these killings, it's very exciting, it's a lot of fun, but eventually you feel bad.
Ms. Patterson, if you can share with us your reaction to your son being on trial.
The authorities have put some sort of credence into this legend is ridiculous, it's outrageous.
It's actually a very interesting little folk tale. The witch, actually her name was Ellie Kedward, who was later called the Blair Witch. She actually was accused by a bunch of children who claimed that she lured them into her home and bled them. There's no actual recorded proof, no documentation that she actually existed.
We have a legend here about the Blair Witch that is my favorite story to tell. The town was originally called Blair. That's where the name the Blair Witch come from. But during one winter there in the 1770s, there was a lady named Ellie Kedward.
We know that a woman of the name came from Ireland to Baltimore on a ship called the Reliant. Her name is on a ship registry, and Ellie Kedward. We don't even know if she's the same one that happened to live in Blair later on, who was accused of witchcraft. We don't have that as a fact. We don't know.
We move up to the year of 1809 when a book called The Blair Witch Cult was published.
Most of the legend is based from this Blair Witch Cult book, which no one's read in at least 100 years.
I had the book at one time. The only copy of it supposedly exists today. And I never read the whole thing because it was so fragile, and I would like to have copied it, but I was afraid I'd break the spine.
There were no more occurrences of the Blair Witch until about approximately 1825-26. There was a drowning which took place of a young girl, Anywhere between 8 and 10, it's another one where there's a lot of disparity.
The town was having their annual picnic out on Tappy Creek.
The creek was anywhere from 8 inches to 2 feet deep. Either way, it's not extremely deep.
And she was sitting down in the water and splashing around like a small child would do. But all of a sudden, she just started throwing water everywhere.
Supposedly, 11 witnesses saw a specter or a ghostly hand come up from the creek and drag this little girl underneath.
And the time they got there, she was gone.
I have to say, I don't quite understand if there were 11 people close enough to be able to see that happen, how come one of them couldn't save her?
Her body was never found, and we just all knew that the Blair Witch had made another successful pillage of one of our children.
Robin Weaver was another young girl from the town of Burkittsville who was lost. She became lost in the Black Hills outside of Burkittsville.
Some girl back in the late 1800s, Robin Weaver, I believe her name was, supposedly just wandered off, disappeared into the woods.
Who knows supposedly about it? They wandered off.
But in the meantime, the town missed her, and they sent a search party out to look for her. And while they were out there looking, she come back. So they sent another search party out to get the first search party because they hadn't returned either. And they come up to what they called the Coffin Rock. It's a big flat rock out in the woods there. And there was the first search party dead on this rock.
And then these men were laid out side by side next to each other, which you could call in a ritualistic fashion.
It scared the daylights out of them, and it scared the daylights out of anybody. And they turned around and hastily got back as quick as they could to town and told them that what had happened to the first search party. So they got some more men, and they cooked their guns and went back out there. And when they got there, they walked up on Coffin Rock, and there was nothing there. Nobody knows to this day what become of those men.
At Coffin Rock, when the search party was sent out to find the bodies, none of the men in the search party seemed to have given the same directions back. You know, who knows? I think that they all, sad to say, they all got really scared, chickened out, and ran back to the town and said the bodies disappeared. So, you know, it's obviously something supernatural.
Sort of in the winter, I guess, the fall or the winter 1940, some of the young kids started to disappear.
What he did is he took the kids down in the basement by twos, and he made one face into the corner.
Really?
And then he would kill the other one. And then when he was done with that, he grabbed the one out of the corner and killed that one too.
He killed 7 children, brutally.
How did you kill the children, Mr. Park? With knives. Mr. Park, were you alone in the killing? Yes. Mr. Park, Mr. Park. I heard voices in my head. What kind of voices? A woman's. What voice, Mr. Park? No idea who it was. Was it Satan, Mr. Park? Was it the Blair Witch, Mr. Park? Could have been.
And I got hold of a newsreel showing Rustin Parr at the prison. And he was telling about what he had done and that he was led to do it by a woman who looked like a witch.
At least there's newsreel from the time. There are many written reports. So this thing went, you know, nationwide at that point. This was a big deal. I have to, got to give the guy some credit that he never really said that the Blair Witch told him to do it. He was asked that.
And again, the Maryland Historical Society came, confiscated my film, took it back to their place. I don't have nothing to do with them no more. They're just, I don't have no dealings with them. Of course, I probably haven't got anything left they won't. Or if they did, they'd come get it.
Most people in town have been talking about the Blair Witch most of their lives.
We're doing a documentary about the Blair Witch.
Oh. I saw the movie. I like the beginning parts of it where they're actually talking to people in the town. I thought that was very interesting. It's people I haven't really met, and you know, then you're getting the actual stories about a person that actually lives there in the town saying, hey, yeah, I remember the Blair Witch. You know, they didn't seem to all believe in it. Maybe a few did. So that was kind of interesting. You know, once we got into the whole woods and running away and screaming, and I don't know. I I think that they've all got the last laugh, is what I think.
Somebody makes a lot of money on something, or something exciting happens, everybody wants to get in on it. And now there's a bunch of books being written and another sequel coming out to the movie because of the man that was killed up there in the summertime. And I think it's all asinine myself.
Erica, what happened to you? Don't be afraid.
You know who it is.
What?
And you know what you have to do.
Erica!
It's almost impossible not to draw a connection between the recent killings and the Blair Witch. I personally discourage people from doing that. It's a really unhealthy environment.
So where are we going first?
The ruins of Rustin Parr's house.
That guy heard the voices to kill, right?
Yeah, 7 little kids were.
Dead ahead. Welcome to the Parr ruins, ladies and gentlemen. It's supposed to be the place where they found Heather's footage.
He got into a lot of trouble. He had a dark sense of humor.
Just to be close to you, girl.
When words are not enough.
Turn off the lights and let's get it.
Say it with body and soul.
Come on to me, baby, like you never done before. Distant love, love.
Presenting the Body and Soul Collection, 24 love songs.
You are my lady.
Get Body and Soul on 2 CDs or 2 cassettes for just $19.99.
Loving you gave me something.
Order with your credit card and get a free album featuring Marvin Gaye. That's 3 albums of sensual music for $19.99.
Baby, come to me, 'cause I love you.
You'll hear great artists like Jeffrey Osborne, Luther Vandross, Freddie Jackson, Patti LaBelle.
Only you knew how much.
Then audition other Body and Soul albums, satisfaction guaranteed.
I believe in miracles. Love's a miracle.
Remember, use your credit card and get 3 albums for just $19.99.
Call 1-800-210-6611 to order Body and Soul for only $19.99. Use your credit card and receive a free 3rd album. That's 1-800-210-6611. Or send check or money order to Body and Soul, Department 4, Richmond, Virginia 23280.
In anticipation of your runaway success as a Wall Street Journal reader, how to blend in with normal people. When in public, walking a pet can help you blend in. A tip on being madly successful from the Wall Street Journal, full of insight on making it big. Subscribe to the Journal for just 57 cents a day for 13 weeks, 25% off the regular rate. The Wall Street Journal. Call 800-652-5151. That's 800-652-5151.
So, planning a big night out, huh? How about that new place? Do they serve shrimp? Or mussels? Is the movie a weeper? A creeper? Or a kung fu sleeper? City search it and make the most of your city. CitySearch.com.
Got into a lot of trouble. He had a dark sense of humor. But one afternoon, he comes into the cafeteria. Probably it's the busiest time for one of their during lunch. He had read this book and he'd rigged up kind of a baby syringe to his arm, and so the blood was all faked. One of the teachers had come down and got him, and he got into a lot of trouble. And Jeff always was looking for ways to kind of attract attention to himself.
Just as a matter of law, I don't know if you know this, you cannot expose the records of someone before the age of 18. This is not to hide any particular thing on the part of my client. It's just a legal fact. You can't do it. I know this, the prosecution knows this.
Any case against Jeffrey is going to have to be based on the information that we have gathered from the crime scene. When he was 9, his father, who was a local artist in Burkittsville, and Jeffrey went for a camping trip. On that trip, Jeffrey's father sustained severe head trauma, injury to his spinal cord, and that resulted in him being completely incapacitated for the rest of his life.
We found out later there's some suspicions on that. It was just kind of passed over because no one thought this kid was 9 years old.
Now, some people are inferring that Jeffrey was responsible for that accident. I will not come to that conclusion. What I would say is that one way or the other, a 9-year-old witnessing this event can't not be traumatized and affected by it. In his early teens, Jeffrey kidnapped a baby of a neighbor.
He kidnapped a kid, a baby. That is not normal.
If indeed Jeffrey is the offender of these crimes, we can definitely go back and say this kidnapping, it was very carefully executed and specifically executed, and he stalked that baby and planned that crime.
You've probably heard about the Walker case. Very close friends of ours, and the family was at our house often, and they called it a kidnapping. It was not a kidnapping. It was an act of compassion on my son's part. Rather than go to jail, he went to an institution.
Jeff Patterson came to us when he was on the verge of 18 years old, a couple of months shy of his 18th birthday, and Jeff was brought here because he had abducted, there's no easier way to say it, an infant. And took this infant into the woods. According to Jeff, it was in response to the voices that he was hearing, not uncommon among schizophrenics, and I'm afraid that had to be the diagnosis. I met a very bright, a very energetic, now when I say energy, I'm not just talking about physical energy, I'm talking about psychic energy, I'm talking about the energy of soul that he brought to the world.
So he's apparently been on medication for it. There's no cure for it, but if a schizophrenic stays on medication, the symptoms are repressed. And I would be very interested to find out if prior to this recent event, Jeffrey stopped taking the pills.
He demanded 3 forms of therapy. One, pharmaceuticals, the other, electroshock treatments, and the third, and most important, very intensive therapy, talk, exchange. And he left here a man capable of assimilating into the larger society.
I can say a lot about Jeff's imagination. It's awesome, it's prodigious, it's vivid.
He planned to someday, or hoped, dreamed, and he certainly had the mental capacity and the creative imagination to do it, to make his own films, and certainly the Blair Witch was one of those that affected him most deeply.
Use the CP! Yo, there's all sorts of here, man. This is crazy.
The Book of Shadows was, I believe, the title of the movie that he planned to make.
To look at his room, it looks like a shrine to the Blair Witch. And what was really interesting, in some cases, he had taken pictures of himself and pasted them, one of them on one of the posters. So that, I mean, he wanted so much to be a part of this Blair Witch thing that he actually put himself in the picture. So Agent Tinshu can tell you that's, as far as profiling goes, man, this guy's a classic case.
My client's imagination is not on trial. His deeds are.
And Jeff is just a young kid who happens to be interested in films. Dear Mom, I think it's time for me to come home. I don't think it makes any difference if I'm here or if I'm there. If I'm there, at least I talk without watching every word I say. Dear Mom, they won't let me say you, but you for showing them my letter. I guess they'll see this one too. Don't bother coming up for Christmas, Jeff.
To me, one of the saddest parts of this case is the fact that Jeff Patterson was even let out of the mental facility.
If we didn't think that it was right to let Jeff back into society, we certainly never would have.
These bodies would not be out in the woods today if he'd still been where he should have been, locked up. The local sheriff Cravens and the deputy, they didn't understand, but they didn't help us a whole lot. They hindered our case.
I think the FBI is happy. I mean, they see what resources we have, and in terms of covering the crimes, I think they see that we're doing everything we can.
The Blair Witch Hunt provides all amenities while you risk certain death and dismemberment.
Give it up.
What's up with all this camera stuff?
To record all occult phenomena that may manifest itself in the course of the tour.
When you've got a town of 500 people, murders create a terrible sensation.
This year, over 400,000 aluminum radiators will corrode and fail. But Prestone Antifreeze bonds with aluminum, forming the Prestone Zone of Protection against corrosion. It's your car, protected in the Prestone Zone.
I became a vet because I love animals, and I choose Hill's Science Diet for the same reason. It has the highest levels of the antioxidants, vitamins C and E, and it's the best way to help keep your dog healthy.
Hill's Science Diet is vet's #1 choice. Nothing keeps your pet healthier.
Commuting, $82 every month. Health Club, $54 every month. Insurance, $62 every month. Trading a checkbook for a storybook? Priceless. Use MasterCard instead of checks to pay monthly bills automatically. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard. Go to MasterCard.com.
ATT man? Oh, he's our son. Such a good boy. Always let us know where he was by calling us collect with 1-800-CALL-ATT.
Even as a baby, he was very smart.
He was always on the phone, always calling his sweeties.
Quit calling. Call it a job.
He was always like, dial down the center. What's up with that?
He was obsessed with dialing down the center. CALLATT.
For the same low rate every minute, everywhere, dial 1-800-CALL-ATT for collect calls.
My frozen jacked circuits caress my lucid sci-fi.
Regis here for Halloween headquarters at the Warwick Mall, Rhode Island's largest Halloween superstore, where you'll find hundreds of masks, party supplies, props, rentals, the largest selection of costumes for all ages. Al Gore, X-Men, Powerpuff Girls, me, Halloween headquarters. It's the final answer.
Like to shop? You could win thousands of dollars in dream vacations during Warwick Mall's 30th anniversary celebration.
There's always something happening at Warwick Mall.
Mugshots, Monday through Thursday at 7, only on Court TV.
Tonight's events. 9. Cinema feature The Darkling. 11. Crossing Over with John Edward. 11:30. Exposure. This is Sci-Fi.
Witness 18 frightening fables of horrifying havoc. The Tales from the Crypt Chain Reaction. Next Sunday, beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern and Pacific.
Sci-Fi.
we seeing all this shit, okay? Why is all this happening?
I don't know. Collective delusion. Group hysteria. It's what I'm writing my book about. You get a bunch of people together, you get them scared enough.
Dude, spare us the bullshit. Please.
My sister was brutally murdered.
My son was taken in a violent way. His life was taken.
Some of the families, including my family, are banding together to try and so-called fight this.
What I know about the Jeff Patterson case is what I've heard from his attorney, Donald McFerrell, who came to me wanting my knowledge and some information on mass hysteria. There are two forms that mass hysteria can take, and one is a physical, that groups of people have been known to collapse because they are all overtaken by some sort of physical, they think, ailment. The other aspect of this mass hysteria has to do with a perceived evil that is shared by groups. It can be, again, from 2 to 900. And we can go back to something which is an example of Hitler's rise to power, where he, as the whistleblower, inspired the whole country to believe that the source of their problems and the source of the diminishing economy and was the Jewish population, the Jewish race. At least 200 people were killed in Indonesia for being what was thought as black magicians. And they called them ninjas.
Well, there's a lot of classifications for multiple murderers. That they generally fall under 3, though, distinctive categories. One is serial killing. Serial killing is a perfection of a technique over a period of time where many people are killed. There are many victims. There are certain well-known serial killers, Jeffrey Dahmer, the Zodiac Killer, Son of Sam, and Ted Bundy.
Do you know Robert Bundy?
Then spree killing takes place in one contained area, a very short period of time, to a large group of people. For example, Charles Whitman or Richard Speck. And then the last is mass murderers, and that's a hybrid combination of the two. Sometimes also has cultish undertones, like the Manson family. Charles Manson's defense was that he was simply an innocent party who had these individuals drawn to him, but that was not responsible for their actions. In this case, with Jeffrey Patterson, we're looking at it, if indeed he is the offender, as a spree killing with cultish undertone.
The crimes were gruesome. And when you've got a town of 500 people, disappearance of people and murders basically create a terrible sensation.
Well, the kind of person that commits spree crimes, well, it's a combination of things. He either has gotten to a point in his life where certain elements make him snap, and he's brought together a group of people or enters an area with a group of people and takes that emotional release to a violent level. It's not necessarily someone who plans a murder, although it could be. The pattern of blaming other people, of laying the blame away from themselves, the guilty party tends to put that blame anywhere other than themselves.
Vera Tinslew is convinced that the 3 individuals together was this mass hysteria kind of thing. I don't think so.
You know, this is an act of someone who's crazy or really obsessed with that whole occult.
I mean, if people really believe in myths and legends, that's definitely could be a cause of mass hysteria.
Jeff is very charismatic and very charming. He knows how to hook you. The guy knew what he was doing. He had a plan from the start. So he took 3 or 4 days in the woods to figure out, you know, who the victims were going to be and who his accomplices were going to be. And I guess I was an accomplice. I don't know, maybe he thought he was the Blair Witch. I couldn't imagine what goes through Jeff's mind, but I can guarantee you I wouldn't have done those things.
I don't know that much about the other two that have been accused in the Jeff Patterson case because I haven't been given much information on them.
The two people who are accused of conspiring with Jeff Patterson don't even have a long relationship with him.
One of them, as I may have mentioned, had minor run-ins with the law as a teenager. The usual thing. There was an assault case, but that was high school, stupid kid stuff. The other kid, clean record. Most definitely Jeff Patterson is the killer. He acted alone. Yes, he had these other two individuals as hanger-ons, but as far as the murders go, I'm convinced he acted alone.
I think people that come together and become obsessed and frightened usually don't lead to a good end.
You're all gonna fucking die. You want to kill me?
No. No, I just want to understand.
We do not want this movie to come out to public viewing. We do not want to see it out there.
People, will ask me, are you a witch? Well, no, I don't call myself a witch. I call myself a Wiccan. The Wiccan beliefs are that we can create our own reality, so to speak, and we use different ways of doing that. Some people say we do spells, we practice manipulating things, but this is against our religion. Witches or believers in pagan beliefs in the Middle Ages were tortured in horrible ways. In fact, there was a book written by some monks at the order of one of the popes, I guess, during the Inquisition time, called the Malleus Maleficarum, which was a outline of how to torture and how to abuse in the most terrible ways witches.
Many people were accused of being witches, which would explain a kind of behavior that came from a repressive society. As we look back, the kind of sexual frenzy was experienced by these young women. But of course, at the time, it was attributed to that they were being possessed by witches or by demons.
When we look at what's happened with this film phenomenon that's gone on now, and I don't want to say anything negative about, filmmakers, but, people want to make money, and sensationalism brings about money.
They're doing a lot of fictitious writing into it to blow it up, make it more spectacular.
We must have fallen asleep.
Asleep? It's like we must have blacked out.
I know, the last thing I remember was that other tour group.
Yeah. Those f***ing weeds, who else could it have been, huh?
They came back from Coffin Rock and ripped us off.
Rip.
Witness 18 frightening fables of horrifying havoc. The Tales from the Crypt Chain Reaction. Next Sunday, beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern and Pacific.
You know that awful junk drawer? Well, try Rayovac Maximum batteries with this handy storage pack. You'd be amazed what it does for your organizational skills.
Rayovac, long-lasting power for less.
Thank you for calling Domino's. Can I take you
Andy! Huh? Those sockets are only supposed to be used for Domino's heat wave bags. They need to stay plugged in so the pizza's delivered hot. Are you listening to me?
The Domino's Heatwave bag is plugged in to stay hot.
You happy now, Andy?
It's a fall heat wave at Domino's, where you can get a hot deal every day. Call now and get a large one-topping pizza and a 2-liter of Coke for $9.99. Domino's, bad Andy, good pizza.
The 16-valve, twin-cam Grand Am SE. Built with the enduring strength of hydroformed steel. Because only the strong survive. The Grand Am was solid form design. Get over $4,500 in average finance savings on any new 2000 Grand Am with 0% APR for up to 60 months. See your Pontiac dealer today.
Sausage is a lot like life. You get out of it about what you put into it. And in Jimmy Dean sausage, we put whole ground herbs and spices and fresh cuts of quality pork. Fresh taste guaranteed. That's the Jimmy Dean way.
Yarom need not never sci-fi.
Only one thing more special than a birthday party, and that's a surprise birthday party with Bear in the Big Blue House live on stage. And you're invited. Bring the whole family to a sing-along, dance-along Broadway-style show with all the musical, magical fun of Jim Henson's Bear in the Big Blue House.
I'm so surprised!
So come ready for a party. A surprise party.
Coming to the Providence Performing Arts Center Thursday, October 26th through Sunday, October 29th. Opening night, all tickets $12. Call 421-ARTS.
Newport County TV is a group of volunteers who work together on a regular basis to produce public access programs for the local Cox Cable Access Channel.
It's so easy to get involved. We work with a lot of interesting people, a lot of creative people.
And I'm finding that I have some talents I didn't even know I had. It's for anybody, it's for everybody.
Come on out, join us and have a great time.
Public access, television that you make.
Cinema Event Week, the biggest movies in prime time. Cinema Event Week starts tomorrow at 9 Eastern and Pacific on Sci-Fi.
Earth and fire and water and smoke, Persephone, I invoke. By earth and fire and water and smoke, Persephone, I invoke. By earth and fire and water and smoke, Persephone, I invoke. By earth and fire and water and smoke, Persephone, I invoke. By earth and fire and water and smoke, Persephone, I
I will do what I can, and I know my family will do what they can to see that her death is not made into a movie. If it does come out, we're going to sue.
A brutal murder in the Black Hills discovered today. The bodies of 5 hikers found dead atop the landmark known as Coffin Rock. A grisly recreation of the infamous Coffin Rock massacre popularized by the movie The Blair Witch Project.
We want the studio to be forthright and to stop wherever it is right now. It's a sensation in the circus sense, and it's a sensation in terms of what you feel about where you are.
I think you should come over here.
What do you want?
What? Something's here.
Last September, Burkittsville local Jeff Patterson, along with 2 others, were arrested for multiple counts of murder, kidnapping, resisting arrest, along with a host of other crimes. Today, Action News 6 takes you live to the courtroom for the first day of trial. Dilba Henry standing by live outside the Rockville courtroom.
After a 6-month delay, the trial of Jeff Patterson is finally getting underway. And Patterson's defense attorney, Mr. Donald McFarrell, has high hopes for his client. Mr. McFarrell, how do you plan on defending your client?
I am going to go to what I would think any logical and reasonable mind would go to, namely the circumstantial nature of the evidence.
Now, many people believe you have an uphill battle with this case, given that most, if not all, of the community thinks that your client is guilty. How do you respond to that?
Well, I don't feel like I have an uphill battle, and I know there are many people in this community who see beyond the appearances of things.
Now, what about the other 2 defendants in this case? What, if anything, was their level of participation?
Well, I cannot and would not comment on that for the simple reason I wouldn't want to jeopardize anything, and they have their attorneys, and that would be better addressed to them.
Okay, very good. Finally, one last question. Is there anything at all you'd like the people of Maryland to know about Jeffrey?
Absolutely. I'd like the people of Maryland to know that Jeffrey and I are very confident and very optimistic about the outcome of this particular case.
Okay, all righty. Mr. Donald McFarrell, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
That's it for now. Back to you in the studio. All right, very good.
Can I ask you a question? How you doing?
Fine, thank you. I'm sorry, I gotta go.
It's about the Blair Witch. There is some kind of like a force out there. There's been murders here before, and these particular murders, the most recent, I mean, there was somewhere around 10. I think it's 10 bodies. There are people in this community, whether it's the sheriff's department, they don't want to bring that attention to it. They don't want to bring that attention to the fact that there's been 10 hideous murders here. And really, they don't want to bring attention to the Blair Witch legend.
It's that Dungeons and Dragons, that game where they all sit around and obsessed and actually become part of the characters. Well, I think Blair Witch was this guy's Dungeons and Dragons.
The Blair Witch and this particular case, a lot of people have kind of tried to tie the two of them together.
But anybody around here would make that connection immediately.
I don't buy the Blair Witch at all. I think that's a lot of phony stuff.
Everything looked so authentic. It seemed kind of like it must be real.
And I think that she's probably up there.
The dark influences of the town and of the Blair Witch and of Jeff's particular life in the past seem to have some kind of a relation.
About come from Michigan, and we sell monkeys down
Who's to say whether there's real witches or not? It's especially if you live up in them mountains, you can probably see a lot of things that you don't want to see, but it's, in your mind, it's true.
You know, people think we're weirdos, or practice the black arts, or draw blood, or do any. We don't do anything like that.
A sequel being made out of these killings trivializes real deaths.
Their memories are truly being dishonored in this way.
Extremely dishonored. It's just not how it's going to be.
Alphabet. They say it means you've been touched by a witch, that you're next chosen to die.
First and foremost, the largest thing was that some of the murders were they took place at his house.
What about 2 bodies in my client's home? Even though that may seem damning, you really have to personally connect these bodies.
They were committed in private homes.
But all I know is there's 2 bodies there, and there's enough evidence from those bodies that I think we can tie in Mr. Patterson.
It's been a little over a year since Jeff Patterson and the others involved in this case were taken into custody for the multiple murders at Seneca State Park and Black Hills National Forest.
The Blair Witch Shrine, although that doesn't indict him, certainly is another indication of his obsessiveness.
He's entitled to do whatever the heck he wants to do.
I'm not afraid to say I'm a believer. To a degree, I'm a big believer.
There are people who have lost touch with reality.
The Blair Witch Project is obviously a phony, and this is a real thing.
I don't believe scientifically in legend, myth, any of this.
When anything happens, she will be blamed for it, especially if it comes in a 60-year time period.
I would like to see all this get cleared up as soon as possible.
I hope his potential for a productive and creative career is not cut short.
I would like to see what other crimes have been committed, what criminals have been in this particular area of the country.
Who knows? Who knows what went on in his head? I just don't know.
Jeff was not violent by anybody's definition of serious violence.
There is a violence that these young people experienced, in a sense they're experiencing it all over again.
The media excites the imagination of people. They're there to sell papers.
When you go to a guy's house, you find 2 bodies there. What do you think?
Again, there are no easy answers to any of these problems.
I'm looking forward to seeing the sequel for several reasons, and the main reason I want to see it is because I want to see who they got to play Ron Cravens.
Get out of these woods and go home! There is no Blair Witch!
And through this entire time, the names of the victims have been withheld.
Authorities here
by
have
the
neither
National
arrested nor detained any other other suspects in these killings. Cameras have been banned from the courtrooms to prevent what some are already calling a media circus. That's the story so far. Stay tuned to News Center 9 for further details. Reporting live, this is Stan Friedman. Now back to you in the studio.
Next on Sci-Fi, The Darkling.
New York's Village Halloween Parade, 50,000 legs, 4 million eyes, a mile long, and it's alive. With over 2 million marchers, spectators, floats, and live musical performances. New York's Village Halloween Parade, live Tuesday, October 31st at 7 on Sci-Fi.
Place your hand on the screen to access Sci-Fi. You have been cleared. Thank you.
And there was nothing there. Nobody knows to this day what become of those men.